currently, since this new regime has come, 80 million people are in hunger, and people have food for one night and they don't have food for the other night. In the previous government, at least 600,000 people were working in the government, and a lot other were in the private sector. It was all shattered overnight when the Taliban came. And since like the regime change, the whole world is silent. And for me, like I see people posting happy things, celebrating, and I just think, I'm like, why is the world not stopped? Why is it still functioning? Because the day Taliban came, all my hopes were shattered, and I could see how Kabul died in a day, and how people lost all hope for development. During this past 20 years, especially young people, they went and got education. They got education at the world's best universities, but all of them, or at least most of them, came back because everybody was hopeful for the development of Afghanistan, for a future that is good, not for like us, but the future for the generations after us. Now it's like all gone, and social activists are killed every day. And the 20 years that we spent developing our country back, it's all for nothing. I don't know what to feel about, I feel so sad that I don't even know, like the whole thing is too much to take in, even though it has been a month since the regime changed or whatever, but I still haven't had time to process. And I don't want to, because I feel that we need to stay vigilant and keep asking the world and the international community to acknowledge that this is happening and this is wrong. So yesterday, my best friend was shot in the end, because there's like nobody who would rule, and nobody who we could ask for, like the police. So my best friend was shot in the end because he refused to give his car to the thieves. And they tell me, like, I'm out of Afghanistan, but my friends and my family were still in Kabul. They tell me that every day on every street, at least 2-3 people die. And nobody knows who killed these people. Every day, women are tortured by not being able to go to school, by not being able to go to university, and all sorts of threatenings come around, that women would be forced to get married, women would be forced to get married, and I think, and their freedoms would be taken away from them. The freedom that all this generation, like the young generation, worked for the past 20 years. Social activists are killed every day under the pretense of anonymous people got killed. They're not anonymous people. They're not numbers. They're like actually human beings who aspire to achieve something, to make the world a better place. And I think the world doesn't realize, or the international community or whatever, that the instability and insecurity in Afghanistan does not just affect Afghanistan and the region, but the whole world. An unstable Afghanistan is what ultimately lead to an insecure world. And so I just want the international community and the world to stand with Afghan women, with Afghan children, with Afghans who have worked so hard to develop the country and make it a better place. And now it's all gone. So when the Taliban came, that day, me and my sister, we were outside, we were on our way to bank. And then there was like too much traffic jam, and a convoy of army people crossed the street, and suddenly we heard the news that Taliban have entered Kabul. But there was like too much traffic jam and we couldn't even go back home. And we were stuck in the traffic jam for like at least 5 hours. By the time we got back home, my mom, she had an actual stroke and she couldn't walk for like, for like a few hours because she was so scared of what would happen and what would happen to us because we were outside. And this is like not the story of my mom. This is the story of every mom, every mother, every father in Afghanistan. My friends are still there and they have also lost hope. My family and all the people who work there. So I'm like really hopeless, but I still want the international community and the people around the world to stand with Afghans and to not recognize these people, these Taliban, and because as a world we are one united family, I think. And if one part is in insecurity and instability, it would affect the whole world. It would eventually. And it has already proven that how an unstable Afghanistan is bad for the whole world. So I didn't want to leave Afghanistan. I never wanted to leave Afghanistan. I never wanted to become an immigrant and start my life all over again. But I had to leave, not because I wanted to leave, but because I was a liability for my family. And I couldn't put this much responsibility on them because the situation for women is really horrible in Afghanistan, really horrible in this regime. Their freedoms are taken, all sorts of freedom. Their their right to education, right to even existence, like they're confined to the four walls of home and they're forced to get married to people they don't even know. And I had to leave because I couldn't make my family go through this because I'm a woman and because I'm a girl and because I'm female. This is the reason I left. And I understand that this is the fear of every other Afghan parent and every woman in Afghanistan, because nobody wants to go through all this and put their loved ones through this. But this situation has forced us to go through all this. So I heard this news that many boys in Kabul and all around Afghanistan have stopped going to school because their sisters were not led to school. I think at a time like this, unity is our best option, and a united Afghanistan is what we need. But I also hope that they'll stay strong and resilient and you'd get out of the situation. So for Afghanistan, I'd like to say that you'd never forget, you'd keep fighting, keep getting strong, and we'd go back to Afghanistan eventually, and you'd make sure that it is the land that was supposed to be the land of culture and civilization and unity and love. We would not forget it, but the time was like really tough, and it was a shock for everybody, and nobody really knew what to do because nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw the war coming or the Taliban entering so suddenly or the government and our previous leader betraying us so much. But the younger generation, my generation, we would stay strong. We would like find tools and we would make this country our country again.